They thought she was just another politician they could silence. They were wrong. In a packed London courtroom, surrounded by cameras and a stunned jury, a decorated police sergeant made the biggest mistake of his life. He raised his hand against Member of Parliament Elena Voss. He expected her to crumble. He expected her to cry. Instead, the courtroom and the world watched in disbelief as Elena didn't just stand her ground. She ended the fight before the bailiffs could even move. But what happened after the knockout? That's where the real story begins. This isn't just a viral moment. This is a brutal tale of corruption, revenge, and the hardest karma you've ever seen. Stick around. You won't believe who is pulling the strings. The air inside the Old Bailey's courtroom number 4 was so thick with tension, it tasted like sulfur. This wasn't just a hearing, it was a coliseum, and the lions were already circling. Elena Voss, the Labour MP for Southwark and a rising star in the shadow cabinet, sat at the defense table, her posture rigid, her eyes fixed on the man in the witness box. She wasn't supposed to be the one asking the questions today. Usually, that was the job of the King's Counsel, but Elena had invoked a rare parliamentary privilege to represent her constituent, a young boy named Kai Ellison, who had been hospitalized during a routine stop and search. The man in the box was Sergeant Harlan Crowe. He was a mountain of a man, 6 feet 4 inches of gym-honed muscle and arrogance, wearing his dress uniform like a suit of armor. He had the kind of face that was handsome until he smiled, revealing a coldness that never quite reached his eyes. Harlan wasn't just a cop. He was the poster boy for the Metropolitan Police's Specialized Firearms Command. He was untouchable, or at least he had been, until Elena Voss decided to tear his record apart. "Sergeant Crowe," Elena began, her voice calm but carrying to the back of the gallery where the press sat like vultures. "You stated in your initial report that Kai Ellison lunged at you, yet the body cam footage from Officer Hayes, which we just watched, shows Kai with his hands in his pockets backing away. How do you explain this discrepancy?" Harlan shifted in his seat. He didn't look at Elena. He looked at the jury, flashing a tight, practiced grin. "It's a matter of perspective, Ms. Voss. In the heat of the moment, a step back can look like a wind-up for a strike. We are trained to react to threats, not wait until we are bleeding." "So, a 15-year-old boy weighing 10 stone soaking wet was a threat to you?" Elena pressed, stepping out from behind the table. She was wearing a sharp charcoal suit, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked every inch the former prosecutor she was before she entered politics. A threat to a man who holds the interdepartmental boxing title for years running. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Harlan's jaw tightened. He hated that she knew that. He hated that she had done her homework. "My physical capabilities are irrelevant," Harlan spat, his voice dropping an octave. "The law protects officers who fear for their safety." "The law protects the innocent, Sergeant," Elena corrected, moving closer. She was walking a dangerous line. Judge Everett Shaw, a man known for his dislike of theatricals, was watching her over his spectacles with a warning glare. "And right now, it seems the only thing you feared was your ego being bruised." "Objection." The prosecution counsel, a weaselly man named Victor Langford, shot up. "The MP is badgering the witness." "Sustained," Judge Shaw grumbled. "Ms. Voss, keep your questions to the facts." "These are the facts, my lord," Elena said, turning back to Harlan. She stopped just a few feet from the witness box. The proximity was intentional. She wanted him to smell her perfume, to see the unyielding resolve in her dark eyes. She wanted to make him uncomfortable. "Fact. You have 12 excessive force complaints in your file. Fact. All 12 involve minorities. Fact. In every single instance, the body cam footage was either corrupted or lost, except for today." Harlan's face turned a shade of crimson that clashed with his uniform. His hands gripped the railing of the witness box, his knuckles white. "You are twisting the narrative," Harlan growled. "I put bad guys away. I keep the streets safe for people like you to sit in your ivory towers and judge us." "People like me?" Elena asked softly, tilting her head. The silence in the room was deafening. "Clarify that statement, Sergeant. Do you mean MPs? Or do you mean black women who refuse to be intimidated by a badge?" The gallery gasped. It was the elephant in the room, and Elena had just grabbed it by the tusks. Harlan snapped. The mask of the professional officer slipped, revealing the bully underneath. He leaned forward, his voice a low hiss that the microphones barely caught. But Elena heard clearly. "I mean loud-mouthed women who don't know their place." Elena didn't flinch. She smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. "My place, Sergeant, is right here, exposing bullies like you." "You listen here, you little—" Harlan started to rise. "Sit down, Sergeant," Judge Shaw barked, banging his gavel, but the energy in the room had shifted. It was volatile now. The air crackled with static. Elena turned to the jury, dismissing him with her back. "No further questions for this witness." As she walked back to her table, she heard the heavy thud of the witness gate swinging open. She didn't turn around immediately. She assumed he was leaving the box. She was wrong. Sergeant Harlan Crow wasn't leaving. He was following her. "Don't you turn your back on me," Harlan roared. The sound was so loud, so filled with raw rage, that the court stenographer dropped her hands from the keys. Elena stopped and turned slowly. Harlan was right there, looming over her, invading her personal space. The bailiffs were moving, but they were too slow. They were caught off guard. No one attacks an MP in high court. It just doesn't happen. "You think you can ruin my career?" Harlan shouted, spit flying from his lips. He was unhinged, the pressure of the trial finally cracking the facade. "I am the law. You are a disgrace," Elena said, her voice steady, though her heart was hammering against her ribs. That was the spark. Harlan's hand came up. It wasn't a punch. It was a slap. A backhanded, dismissive, arrogant slap intended to humiliate rather than injure. Crack! The sound echoed like a gunshot. The force of it whipped Elena's head to the side. Her glasses skittered across the polished floor. The courtroom froze. Total paralyzed silence. For a suspended moment, time didn't exist. The judge's mouth was open. The jury was petrified. The camera operator in the corner zoomed in, capturing the red mark blooming instantly on Elena's cheek. Harlan stood there, breathing heavy, a look of momentary satisfaction on his face. He had established dominance. He had put her in her place, or so he thought. Elena Voss did not scream. She did not fall. She did not clutch her face and weep. She slowly turned her head back to face him. The courtroom was still suspended in that horrified vacuum, but Elena was moving at a different speed. She adjusted her blazer. She looked at Harlan, and for the first time, the sergeant felt a prickle of genuine fear. Her eyes weren't filled with tears. They were filled with calculation. Elena Voss wasn't just an MP. Before she passed the bar, before she ran for office, Elena had spent years training in Krav Maga to deal with the stress of law school. She wasn't a fighter by trade, but she knew mechanics. She knew leverage. And right now, she had enough adrenaline in her system to lift a car. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. Harlan, realizing he had just committed career suicide, but too deep in his rage to stop, raised his hand again, this time balling it into a fist. "I'll shut you." He never finished the sentence. As he stepped forward with a clumsy telegraphing haymaker, Elena didn't retreat. She stepped in. It happened so fast that even the slow-motion replays later would struggle to catch the nuance. Elena ducked under the looping right hand, her movement fluid and precise. She pivoted on her left heel, generating torque from her hips, and drove a compact, devastating left hook upward. It wasn't a wild swing. It was a sniper shot. Her fist connected squarely with the button, the sweet spot on the jaw where the nerve cluster sits. Thwack! The sound was different this time. It wasn't the wet slap of skin. It was the dull, heavy thud of bone on bone. Harlan's eyes rolled back into his head instantly. His legs, those massive tree trunks of muscle, turned to jelly. He didn't crumble. He fell like a cut tree. He tipped backward, his arms flailing uselessly, and crashed to the floor with a tremor that shook the defense table. He was out cold before he hit the ground. Elena stood over him, her breathing controlled, her fists still raised in a defensive guard, scanning for a secondary threat. The silence that followed was heavier than before. It lasted for what felt like an eternity. Then, chaos erupted. "Order! Order in the court!" Judge Shaw was banging his gavel so hard the handle threatened to snap. "Medical! Get a medic!" A bailiff screamed, finally rushing forward, tackling nobody. There was nobody to tackle. The threat was snoring on the floor, and the assailant was a member of parliament smoothing down her suit jacket. The press gallery exploded. Journalists were shouting into their phones, typing furiously. Flash bulbs went off despite the strict rules against photography. The bailiffs, too overwhelmed to stop them. Elena bent down, picked up her glasses, inspected them for scratches, and put them back on. She looked down at the unconscious form of Sergeant Crow. "My lord," Elena said, looking up at the judge, her voice cutting through the din. I would like to enter a plea of self-defense regarding the events of the last few moments. Judge Shaw looked at her, then at the unconscious policeman, then back at her. He looked like he needed a drink. A strong one. Court is adjourned, he bellowed. Clear the room. Everyone out. Now. As the bailiffs ushered the frenzy out of the doors, Elena's eyes met those of her client, Kai Ellison. The boy was staring at her with wide, worshipping eyes. She gave him a small, reassuring nod. But inside, Elena was vibrating. She knew what she had just done. She had assaulted a decorated police officer in a court of law. Even if he started it, the optics would be weaponized. The angry black woman trope would be plastered on every tabloid by morning. They would say she provoked him. They would say she used excessive force. She walked out of the courtroom through the side exit, flanked by her legal team. Her junior aide, a frantic young man named Cole, was already scrolling through Twitter on his iPad. It's everywhere, Elena, Cole stammered, his face pale. The video, it's spreading like wildfire, already trending at the top globally. But what, Cole? Elena asked, walking briskly down the marble corridor, the adrenaline beginning to crash, leaving her shaking. The narrative is splitting, Cole said, showing her the screen. On one side, people were cheering her as a hero. On the other, the Police Federation accounts and right-wing pundits were already spinning the story. Headline, Radical MP brutalizes hero cop in courtroom ambush. They're saying you baited him, Cole said. They're saying you planned it. Harlan's union rep is already on Sky News calling for your immediate arrest for assault causing bodily harm. Elena stopped. She leaned against the cold stone wall of the corridor. She touched her cheek. It was throbbing. Let them talk, Elena said, though her stomach churned. Harlan slapped me on camera. That's the problem, Cole said quietly. The angle of the main court feed. The judge's bench blocked the slap. From the main camera, it looks like he leaned in to whisper something, and you knocked him out. Elena's blood ran cold. What? The bailiff's body cam will show it, Cole said, trying to be optimistic. Or the stenographer saw it. The bailiff was looking at the gallery, Elena realized. And the stenographer. She had her head down. Elena realized that the most justified act of self-defense in her life might just be the thing that sent her to prison. Harlan was unconscious now, but when he woke up, he would lie. He would say he never touched her, and without that angle. We need footage, Elena said, pulling out her phone. There were dozens of people in that room. Phones are banned in court, Elena. Anyone who recorded it is breaking the law. If they release the footage, they go to jail for contempt of court. Elena looked at the closed doors of the courtroom. The system she had dedicated her life to upholding was suddenly closing in on her. Then we have to find someone brave enough to break the law, she said. Sergeant Harlan Crow woke up to the smell of antiseptic and the hum of fluorescent lights. He was in a private room at St. Thomas's Hospital overlooking the Thames. His jaw felt like it had been rearranged with a sledgehammer. He tried to sit up, but a heavy hand pushed him back down gently. Easy, Harlan, you've had a concussion. Harlan blinked, his vision clearing. Standing over him was not a doctor, but Detective Chief Inspector DCI Roland Pierce. Roland was the kind of cop who never wore a uniform, but terrified people more than anyone in riot gear. He was the fixer for the Met, the man who made problems disappear before they reached the headlines. She hit me, Harlan croaked, his voice thick. That bitch hit me. We know, Roland said, his voice smooth and devoid of emotion. He pulled a plastic chair close to the bed and sat down, leaning in. But we have a problem, Harlan. The optics are complicated. Optics, she assaulted an officer. Harlan spat, wincing as his jaw popped. She's an MP, Harlan, a shadow minister, and she's black. If we arrest her tonight without an ironclad narrative, the city will burn. We've already got protesters gathering outside New Scotland Yard. Roland pulled out a tablet. Here is the situation. The court feed shows you walking up to her, or it shows you leaning in. It shows her hitting you. It does not show you slapping her. Harlan paused. A slow, malicious grin spread across his swollen face. It doesn't. The judge's bench obscured the contact point of your hand, Roland confirmed. To the untrained eye, it looks like you leaned in to speak, and she snapped. I told her to watch her back, Harlan lied smoothly. I was warning her about a threat I heard from a prisoner. I was trying to help her. Roland stared at him. He knew Harlan was lying. Roland knew Harlan was a bully with a short fuse. But Roland also knew that the reputation of the force was currently hanging by a thread. If a sergeant was proven to have slapped a female MP in court, the funding cuts would be catastrophic. The commissioner would roll heads. Roland's job was to protect the shield, not the truth. "Is that your official statement?" Roland asked. "That you approached Ms. Voss to warn her of a credible threat against her safety, and she attacked you unprovoked?" "That's exactly what happened," Harlan said. "She's unstable, angry. She hates the police. Everyone knows it." Roland nodded slowly. "Good, then that is the truth we go with. But you need to sell it. We've got the Police Federation rep outside. They want to put you in front of the cameras. Can you handle it?" "Get me a neck brace," Harlan said, sitting up, "and a wheelchair. If we're going to do this, let's do it right." Soon after, the narrative shifted. Elena was sitting in the war room of her legal team's office in Holborn. The mood was funeral. The news cycle had turned toxic. On the large screen on the wall, the BBC was broadcasting a press conference live from the steps of the hospital. Sergeant Harlan Crowe was being wheeled out in a wheelchair, wearing a foam neck brace that Elena knew for a fact he didn't need. He looked pathetic. He looked like a victim. Beside him stood the chairman of the Police Federation, a bulldog of a man named Marcus Reed. "This afternoon," Marcus bellowed into the microphones, "we witnessed a disgusting assault on a public servant." Sergeant Crowe, a decorated officer who has saved countless lives, approached Ms. Voss to offer her security advice. In return, she brutally attacked him. This was not self-defense. This was a political statement delivered with a fist. "We demand Elena Voss be charged with grievous bodily harm immediately." Elena watched, her mouth slightly agape. "They are lying," she whispered. "He is lying to the whole world." "It's working, though," her lawyer, a sharp-witted woman named Lila Patel, said grimly. She pointed to a graph on her laptop. "Social media sentiment has flipped. Moments ago, you were a hero. Now, the hashtags #ArrestVoss and #ThugImp are trending. They are painting you as the aggressor." "What about the witnesses?" Elena asked, pacing the room. "The jury, the bailiffs." "We've interviewed the jury," Lila sighed. "They were in shock. Most of them claim they saw an argument, but the slap happened so fast, without the sound or a clear view, they can't be sure. Doubt is our enemy, Elena. And right now, Harlan has the benefit of the doubt because he's the one in the hospital bed." "And the audio?" "The court microphones are directional," Lila explained. "They pick up the person speaking. You and Harlan were in the dead zone between the witness box and the defense table. The audio is mud. We hear shouting, but not the slap." Elena slammed her hand on the table. "So I go to jail because he knows where the cameras are." "We need a Hail Mary," Lila admitted. "We need an angle that doesn't exist." Just then, Elena's phone buzzed. It was a text message. The number was blocked. The message was simple. 3 words that sent a chill down her spine. "I saw it." Elena stared at the phone. "Don't touch it," Lila warned, her lawyer instincts flaring. "It could be a trap, a journalist trying to hack you, or a troll." "It's a signal message," Elena said. "Encrypted, self-deleting in moments." A second message popped up. "Meet me South Bank under the Golden Jubilee Bridge in the dead of night. Come alone. If you bring your lawyer, I walk." "Absolutely not," Lila said. "You are the most recognizable woman in London right now. You can't go wandering around the South Bank in the dead of night to meet a stranger. If this person saw what happened, they are my only hope," Elena argued. "Or they are a Harlan sympathizer looking to finish the job," Lila countered. Elena looked at the screen. The news was now showing a montage of Harlan receiving a medal for bravery years earlier. The propaganda machine was in full swing. If she didn't break the narrative that night, she would be arrested in the morning. The Crown Prosecution Service was already under pressure to authorize charges. "I have to go," Elena said. "Then take protection," Lila insisted. "No, they said come alone. I'll be careful." Elena grabbed her trench coat and a baseball cap. "I handled Harlan. I can handle a meeting." The South Bank in the dead of night was usually quiet, save for the occasional skateboarder or late-night couple. But tonight, the air felt heavy. The London Eye glowed red in the distance, casting long, bloody reflections on the Thames. Elena kept her head down, the cap pulled low. She walked to the designated spot under the concrete span of the bridge. The wind howled through the pillars. "Ms. Voss." The voice came from the shadows behind a concrete support. Elena spun around, hands coming up instinctively. A figure stepped out. It wasn't a hoodie-wearing whistleblower. It was a woman in an immaculate beige trench coat smoking a slim cigarette. She looked to be in her 50s with silver hair cut in a sharp bob and expensive leather gloves. Elena recognized her instantly. It was Lady Camille Vesper. The recognition hit Elena like a physical blow. Camille Vesper wasn't just a socialite. She was the owner of Vesper Media Group, the conglomerate that owned 3 of the biggest tabloids in the UK, including the one currently crucifying Elena on its front page. She was a kingmaker, a woman who dined with prime ministers and destroyed careers for sport. "You?" Elena asked, confused. "You're the witness?" "God, no." Camille laughed, a dry, raspy sound. She took a drag of her cigarette. "I wasn't in court. I hate courtrooms. Bad lighting." "Then why am I here?" Elena asked, stepping back. "Is this some kind of sick game? Are you recording this for your morning edition?" "Relax, darling. I'm not here to bury you. I'm here to offer you a trade," Camille said, flicking ash onto the pavement. "You see, my editors are running with the cop hero story because it sells papers. Rage sells. But do you know what sells more than rage?" "What?" "Revenge." Camille smiled. "And justice. The redemption arc." "I don't understand," Elena said. "You control the narrative. You're the one destroying me. Business is business." Camille shrugged. "But I have a personal grievance with Sergeant Harlan Crow, or rather, with the people protecting him." Camille took a step closer. "Years earlier, my nephew was arrested for possession, minor amount. Harlan was the arresting officer. He didn't just arrest him. He broke my nephew's arm in 3 places resisting arrest. We sued, of course, but the evidence disappeared. The body cam footage corrupted. Sound familiar?" Elena's eyes widened. "He did it to your family." "He did, and despite my money and my lawyers, the Met closed ranks. DCI, Roland Pierce, made it go away. I've been waiting for someone to catch Harlan slipping. And you, my dear, didn't just catch him. You knocked him into next week." Camille reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a USB drive. "What is that?" Elena asked. "My reporters are everywhere, Elena, even where they aren't supposed to be. I had a sketch artist in the gallery today. But these days, sketch artists use iPads. And sometimes they get bored and hit record on the camera app just to capture the reference for later." Elena's heart stopped. "You have video?" "From the gallery angle." Camille nodded. "High definition. It captures everything. The slap, the sound, the look on his face before he did it. It clears you completely. It proves perjury. It proves assault." Elena reached for the drive, but Camille pulled it back. "Ah," Camille tisked. "Not so fast. I said a trade." "What do you want?" Elena asked, her hand shaking. "I give you this drive, and you destroy Harlan. That's a given. But once you are vindicated, once you are the hero again, I want the exclusive. I want the interview, and I want you to drop your proposed bill on media privacy regulation." Elena stiffened. The media privacy bill was her passion project. It was designed to stop vultures like Camille Vesper from hacking phones and destroying lives. "You want me to sell out my principles to save my career?" Elena asked. "I want you to survive," Camille said coldly. "If you don't take this drive by tomorrow morning, you will be charged. You will lose your seat. You will go to prison, and my papers will make sure you are remembered as a violent thug. Or you kill the bill, you take the drive, and you become the woman who took down the corrupt police state." Camille held out the drive again. The small silver stick glinted in the streetlight. "It's a simple choice, Elena. Justice for yourself or justice for the ideal. You can't have both." Elena looked at the drive. She thought of Kai Ellison, the boy she was defending. If she went to jail, Kai was doomed. If she took the deal, she saved herself. But she empowered the woman standing in front of her. It was a devil's bargain. Elena reached out and took the drive. "Smart girl," Camille smirked. "Go home, upload it, watch the world burn." Camille turned and walked away into the darkness, her heels clicking on the concrete, leaving Elena alone under the bridge with the weapon that would save her life and the guilt that might destroy her soul. Elena didn't go home. She went straight to Lila's office. "Plug it in," Elena ordered, throwing the drive onto the desk. Lila didn't ask questions. She plugged it in. A video file popped up. They clicked play. The angle was high from the back of the gallery. It looked down into the well of the court. The quality was crisp. On the screen, Harlan stormed up to Elena. The audio was clear enough to hear the roar of, "Don't you turn your back on me." Then, clear as day, Harlan's hand whipped out. The slap was unmistakable. The sound, crack, was sickeningly loud. Lila gasped. "We have him. Oh my God, Elena, we have him." "Upload it," Elena said, her voice hollow. "Leak it to everyone. Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Send it to the BBC. Send it to Sky." "What about the source?" Lila asked. "Who do we attribute it to?" "Anonymous," Elena said. "Just get it out there before I change my mind." Moments later, the video went live. The reaction was instantaneous. It was nuclear. The internet didn't just break, it shattered. The hashtag in support of Elena Voss trended at the top worldwide within moments. The comments shifted from hate to outrage. At commenter 1, he slapped her. He actually slapped her. At commenter 2, that wasn't self-defense, that was an execution, and she dropped him. Legend. At commenter 3, the police lied. They held a press conference and lied. At the hospital, Sergeant Harlan Crow was watching the TV. His phone started ringing. Then DCI Roland Pierce's phone started ringing. Roland looked at his phone, then at the TV screen where the video was playing on a loop. He turned to Harlan. His face was pale. "It's over, Harlan," Roland said quietly. "We can't spin this." "Fix it!" Harlan screamed, panic rising in his chest. "You said you'd fix it!" "I can't fix a viral video with millions of views," Roland said, standing up. He looked at the sergeant with disgust. "You're on your own." Roland walked out of the room, leaving Harlan alone with the buzzing of his phone and the terrifying realization that the hunter had just become the prey. But Elena wasn't done yet. She didn't just want to clear her name. She wanted to expose the rot. And she knew that the slap was just the tip of the iceberg. Harlan wasn't just a bad apple. He was the enforcer for a corrupt ring of officers operating out of the Southwark precinct. And now that she had the public's attention, she was going to burn their house down. Soon, Elena stood on the steps of the Old Bailey. A sea of microphones surrounded her. She wasn't wearing the gray suit of a defendant anymore. She was wearing bright white. She looked like an avenging angel. "Yesterday," Elena began, her voice ringing out across the square, "you saw a man try to silence me with violence. Today you saw the truth, but this isn't about me. This is about every person who didn't have a camera rolling when Sergeant Harlan Crow and his unit came for them." She looked directly into the lens of the main camera. "I am announcing the formation of an independent parliamentary inquiry into the Southwark Specialized Firearms Command, and I am asking anyone who has been a victim of Sergeant Harlan Crow to come forward. Do not be afraid. I am standing here. I am fighting. Stand with me." The crowd erupted in cheers. But in a dark office in Canary Wharf, Lady Camille Vesper watched the broadcast with a glass of wine in her hand. She smiled. "Well done, Elena," she whispered. "You got your war. Now let's see if you can survive the peace." And in the shadows of the police station, DCI Roland Pierce was shredding documents. He knew the inquiry was coming. He knew Harlan would crack under pressure. He had to make a choice, go down with the ship or silence Harlan permanently. He picked up a burner phone and dialed a number. "We have a loose end," Roland said. "Take care of it." St. Thomas's Hospital was quiet in the early morning hours. The media circus had finally died down, leaving only a single bored constable guarding the door to Sergeant Harlan Crow's private room. Inside, Harlan was wide awake. He was staring at the ceiling, his mind racing. He had checked his bank account on his phone. Frozen. He had tried to call his union rep. Voicemail. He had tried to call his wife. She didn't answer. The system he had served for years, the system he had killed for, had severed him like a gangrenous limb. The door handle turned slowly. Harlan froze. He knew the guard shift wasn't due to change for some time. He feigned sleep, his hand sliding under his pillow to grip the heavy metal water bottle he had stashed there. The door opened. It wasn't the constable. It was a man in blue scrubs wearing a surgical mask and carrying a tray with a single syringe. Harlan watched through slit eyes. He recognized the walk. It wasn't a doctor's walk. It was a tactical walk. Weight on the balls of the feet. Silent. Predatory. It was Detective Sergeant Miller, a man from his own unit, a man Harlan had gone drinking with just days before. Miller approached the IV drip. He didn't speak. He raised the syringe filled with a clear liquid that Harlan knew wasn't pain medication. It was insulin. A massive overdose would look like heart failure. Clean. Untraceable. "Sorry, Harlan," Miller whispered, uncapping the needle. "Roland says you're a liability." Karma, Harlan realized in that split second, wasn't a mystical force. It was the cold reality of the world he had helped build. As Miller reached for the IV port, Harlan moved. Despite the concussion, despite the drugs in his system, Harlan was a fighter. He swung the metal water bottle with every ounce of desperate strength he had left. It connected with Miller's wrist with a sickening crunch. Miller dropped the syringe and howled, clutching his broken wrist. Harlan ripped the IV out of his arm, blood spraying across the sheets. He lunged off the bed, tackling Miller. They crashed into the medical cart, sending trays and scalpels clattering to the floor. "You think you can kill me?" Harlan roared, the adrenaline masking his pain. He wrapped his hands around Miller's throat. "I taught you everything you know." The door burst open. The constable on guard rushed in, baton raised. "What is going on?" Miller, choking, pointed at Harlan. "He's crazy. He attacked me. Help!" The constable didn't know Miller was an assassin. He just saw a deranged, disgraced sergeant strangling a doctor. The constable swung his baton, striking Harlan across the ribs. Harlan grunted, releasing Miller. He shoved the constable into the wall and bolted. He ran out of the room barefoot, wearing only a hospital gown that was rapidly staining with blood from his torn IV site. He sprinted down the hallway, ignoring the shouts behind him. He burst through the fire exit and stumbled down the stairwell, his breath tearing at his throat. He emerged into the cool night air of the loading dock. He was shivering, bleeding, and alone. He was the most wanted man in London, not just by the public, but by the police. He hotwired an old delivery van parked near the bins, a skill he had learned undercover years before. As he peeled out of the hospital grounds, sirens began to wail in the distance. Harlan drove aimlessly, his hands shaking on the wheel. He couldn't go home. They would be waiting. He couldn't go to his safe house. Roland knew where it was. He realized with a terrifying clarity that there was only one place on Earth where the police wouldn't look for him. One place where DCI Roland Pierce wouldn't dare send a hit squad. He turned the van around and headed toward Southwark, toward the constituency office of Elena Voss. Elena Voss was working late. Her office was a bunker of activity. Boxes of files were stacked high, evidence sent in by the public after her call to action. "Elena, you need to see this," Cole said, holding up a letter. "It's from a grandmother in Peckham. She says Harlan planted drugs on her grandson years earlier. The boy hanged himself in prison while awaiting trial." Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the tragedy. "Add it to the file. We need to verify everything." "There are hundreds, Elena," Cole said softly. "How did he get away with this for so long?" "Because people were afraid," Elena said, "and because the people in charge let him." Suddenly, the front glass of the office shattered. Elena and Cole ducked instinctively as a heavy object flew through the window. It wasn't a brick. It was a man. Harlan Crow crashed through the display window, rolling across the floor amidst a shower of glass. He looked like a demon. Hospital gown torn, chest heaving, blood smeared on his face. Cole screamed. Elena grabbed a heavy stapler, the only weapon she had. Harlan didn't attack. He scrambled to his knees, raising his hands. He was crying. The big, tough, untouchable sergeant was sobbing like a child. "Don't shoot!" Harlan screamed at no one in particular. "Don't let them in! Lock the door! Lock the door!" "Cole, call 999!" Elena ordered, standing her ground. "No!" Harlan lunged, not at them, but at Cole, knocking the phone from his hand. "No police! If you call the police, I'm dead! Roland sent Miller to kill me in the hospital. They tried to overdose me." Elena paused. She looked at the man who had slapped her the day before. He was broken. Terror had stripped him of his arrogance. "Why should I believe you?" Elena asked, her voice cold. "Because I have the leverage," Harlan gasped, reaching into the waistband of his underwear, the only place he could hide anything. He pulled out a small waterproof key. "This is for a locker at Victoria Station. It has the insurance file, the ledger, payoffs from the local gangs, Roland's cut, the commissioner's cut, everyone." Elena stared at the key. This was it, the smoking gun. "Why bring it to me?" she asked. "Why not the press?" "Because the press is owned by people like Lady Vesper," Harlan spat, "and she's just as dirty as Roland. You're the only one crazy enough to burn them all." Harlan collapsed onto the floor, exhausted. "I'll confess. I'll tell you everything. Just don't let Roland take me, please. I don't want to die." Elena looked at Cole. "Lock the door and pull the blinds." "Elena, are you insane?" Cole hissed. "He's a fugitive." He's a witness, Elena corrected. She walked over to Harlan, who flinched as she approached. She didn't offer him a hand. She looked down at him with pity and disgust. "Get up, Harlan," she commanded. "You wanted to teach me a lesson about power. Now I'm going to teach you one about justice. You're going to sit in that chair, and you're going to talk into a camera. And this time, we're going to make sure the audio is crystal clear." The live stream went live as the city stirred. Elena didn't use a polished studio. She used her iPhone propped up on a stack of books. The background was her shattered office window. "Good morning, London," Elena said, her face weary but fierce. "I told you yesterday that the slap was just the beginning. I didn't know how right I was." She stepped aside. The camera focused on Harlan Crow. He looked wrecked. He told the world everything. He spoke for what felt like an hour. He named names. He detailed how DCI Roland Pierce took bribes from the Albanian mafia to ignore trafficking routes. He explained how they planted evidence on black teenagers to meet arrest quotas. He admitted to the lost body cam footage. He confessed to the assault on Lady Vesper's nephew. And then he looked at the camera, tears streaming down his face. "I was a bully," he choked out. "I thought the badge made me a god, but I was just a thug in a uniform. And I am sorry." The city of London woke up to an earthquake. The Prime Minister was on the phone with the Home Secretary. New Scotland Yard was raided, not by the police, but by the National Crime Agency. Elena watched from her office window as tactical teams swarmed the precinct across the street. She saw DCI Roland Pierce being led out in handcuffs. He didn't look smooth or terrifying anymore. He looked old. He looked up at her window, and for a moment their eyes met. Elena didn't smile. She just watched. This was the hard karma. It wasn't just Harlan getting knocked out. It was the complete dismantling of his world. Harlan was arrested by the NCA agents Elena had called. As they cuffed him, he looked at Elena. "Thank you," he whispered. "Don't thank me," Elena said, turning away. "You're going to prison for a very long time, Harlan, but at least you'll be alive to see the inside of a cell." Later that evening, the dust was settling. Elena sat in her ruined office, the cool wind blowing through the broken glass. Her phone buzzed. It was Lady Camille Vesper. "Brilliant show, darling," Camille's voice purred. "Absolutely cinematic. You destroyed the police force and gave me the headline of the decade, The Monster We Made. It's already printing." "I did what I had to do," Elena said. "And now," Camille said, her voice dropping, "about our deal, the media privacy bill. I expect it to die in committee." Elena closed her eyes. She had won. She had taken down a corruption ring. She had saved Kai Ellison. She had avenged the victims. But she had made a pact with a different kind of devil. "It will die," Elena said, her voice flat. "Good girl," Camille said. "Welcome to the big leagues, Elena. You're one of us now." The line went dead. Elena looked at the reflection of herself in the darkened screen of her phone. She was a hero to the world, but she knew the truth. She had traded one form of corruption for another. The fight against Harlan was physical. The fight against Camille Vesper, that would be political. And it was only just beginning. In time, the rain was falling on London, turning the gray streets into mirrors of slate and steel. The Old Bailey was packed again, but this time the atmosphere was different. There was no tension, only a grim sense of finality. Sergeant Harlan Crow sat in the dock. He looked years older. The arrogant, muscle-bound titan who had slapped Elena Voss was gone. In his place was a hollowed-out shell of a man, shrunken in his ill-fitting prison-gray tracksuit. He had pleaded guilty to everything: perjury, grievous bodily harm, corruption in public office, and conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. His testimony had taken down DC-1 Roland Pierce, 2 superintendents, and many other officers. The corrupt ring was shattered. Judge Lillian Hart, a woman known for her icy demeanor and sentences that ended careers, adjusted her spectacles. "You were entrusted with the highest power a state can give, the power to enforce the law. You used that power to terrorize the very people you swore to protect. You turned this court into a mockery. You struck an elected official. You destroyed evidence. You ruined lives." Harlan stared at his hands. He didn't look at the gallery where his wife used to sit. She wasn't there today. She had filed for divorce soon after his live stream confession. His children had changed their last names. That was the real karma. Prison was just a location. His erasure from the lives of the people he loved was the punishment. "I sentence you to 15 years in Her Majesty's prison," Judge Hart declared. "You will serve a minimum of 10 before being considered for parole." The gavel banged. It was over. Harlan didn't fight. He didn't scream. He simply stood up, offered his wrist to the bailiff, and was led away. As he passed the gallery, he looked up. Elena Voss was sitting in the back row. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just watched him go. It was a tragedy, she realized, a waste of a life fueled by ego and a system that told him he was untouchable until the moment he wasn't. Elena walked out of the courthouse and into the rain. A black town car was waiting at the curb. The window rolled down. It was Lady Camille Vesper. "Get in, darling," Camille said, patting the leather seat beside her. "You'll catch your death." Elena hesitated, then opened the door and slid in. The interior smelled of expensive leather and stale cigarette smoke. "Congratulations," Camille said, handing Elena a glass of champagne. 15 years. You got your pound of flesh." "It wasn't about flesh," Elena said, ignoring the drink. "It was about cleaning the rot." "And you did a marvelous job," Camille smiled. "The public loves you. Your approval ratings are through the roof. They're talking about you for Home Secretary in the next reshuffle." "I know what you want, Camille," Elena said tiredly. "The vote is coming up," Camille said, her smile sharpening. "The Media Privacy Regulation Bill. It's currently deadlocked in committee. One word from you, the hero of the hour, and it dies." This was the deal. Elena had saved her career by using Camille's footage. Now she had to pay the piper. If she killed the bill, tabloids like Camille's could continue to hack phones, bribe police for scoops, and destroy lives for profit. If she refused, Camille would destroy her. She would leak that Elena had coordinated the leak, that she had cut a backroom deal. It would look like corruption. "I'll do it," Elena said. "I'll withdraw my support." Camille clinked her glass against Elena's unmoving one. "I knew you were a pragmatist. Welcome to the real world, Elena. Ideals are for fairy tales. Power is for those who can stomach the dirt." The car pulled up to Parliament Square. Elena got out. She stood on the pavement, watching the car disappear into the London traffic. "Is it done?" Elena turned. Cole, her aide, was standing under an umbrella behind her. He looked older, too. The recent events had aged them all. "It's done," Elena said. "I'm killing the bill." Cole looked down at his shoes. "The privacy campaigners are going to hate you. They'll say you sold out." "Let them," Elena said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black dictaphone. She stared at it for a moment. "You recorded her?" Cole whispered, his eyes widening. "Every conversation, every threat, every deal," Elena said softly, including the one where she admitted to bribing the original judge in her nephew's case. "Are you going to release it?" Cole asked, hope rising in his voice. Elena shook her head and put the device back in her pocket. "Not yet, Cole. If I release this now, I go down with her. I engaged in a conspiracy. I'll lose my seat." She looked up at the statue of Winston Churchill looming in the mist. "Camille Vesper thinks she owns me now. She thinks I'm her puppet. That makes her careless. I'll kill the bill. I'll let her think she's won. I'll let her feel safe." Elena's eyes hardened. The fire that had knocked out Harlan Crow wasn't gone. It had just turned into a slow burn. "But in time, when I have the power to appoint the regulators, when I don't need her protection anymore, I will play this tape, and I will burn her empire to the ground." "That's a long game, Elena," Cole said. "That's a dangerous game." "It's the only game there is," Elena replied. She buttoned her coat. "Harlan was just a brute. He was easy. Vesper is the real monster. And to kill a monster, sometimes you have to live in its belly for a while." She began to walk toward the Palace of Westminster, her heels clicking on the wet pavement. "Come on, Cole. We have a bill to kill and a war to prepare for." As she walked away, the camera pulled back, rising high above the rainy streets of London, showing the city in all its gray, complex glory. The story wasn't a fairy tale. The bad guy went to jail, but the bigger villain got away for now. It was messy. It was compromised. It was real. But as Elena Voss disappeared into the halls of power, one thing was certain. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the hunter waiting for the perfect shot. And that is the brutal reality of the Elena Voss saga. She won the battle in the courtroom, but the war for her soul is still ongoing. Harlan sits in a cell stripped of his badge and his family. The ultimate karma for a man who thought he was above the law. But Elena, she had to shake hands with the devil to get justice. She sacrificed her principles on privacy to survive, proving that in the real world, there are no perfect heroes, only survivors making impossible choices. What would you have done in Elena's shoes? Would you have let yourself go to jail to keep your hands clean? Or would you have made the deal with Lady Vesper to ensure the corrupt cops were taken down? This story reminds us that sometimes the hardest knockout isn't a physical punch. It's the silent, long-term game of power. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the dark side of justice, make sure to like this video. It really helps the algorithm. Share this with a friend who loves a gritty political thriller and subscribe so you don't miss our next story on the untold scandals of the elite. Thanks for watching, and remember, watch your back, because you never know who's really pulling the strings.